for about 2 years. In this current role, and I'll kind of talk more about our programs, but basically I assist students who are in some of our non-credit, kind of our shorter term programs from about 7-8 weeks to 12 weeks to help them go directly to work. And prior to that, I worked for Sharon Stevens. I was the career coach for occupational majors for about 2 years as well. I recognize some of you from when I was on the credit side, so it's kind of nice. I have seen some of the credit side and the non-credit side. And then my background prior to that, I worked in human resources for a large aerospace company for a long time. So kind of having that engineering side and seeing some of the things in industry has really helped even with some of the programs I work on today. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about our programs and how we can help students find the best fit for them. Denise? Great.
Hi, I'm Denise Alexander. I am the Director of Training and Certification in our area of community education and professional certification, which is a mouthful, but we were previously continuing education. And so I have been with the college for almost 4 years now in a full-time capacity as an administrator. But prior to that, I did teach for the AESL program, and I also worked as an ESL instructor and a program developer and corporate trainer. And I have a background in education. I was an adjunct instructor at Rider University, and I have a K-12 background as well. So that's me.
Great. Janet?
I'm Janet Baker. I'm the Director of Allied Health in Health Sciences. So I am the non-credit portion of that, but we work alongside credit and non-credit within health sciences, and there's many pathways that I think that, especially in healthcare, that we can join together with credit and non-credit. Just for an instance, an example is I've had an EKG program, non-credit program, and there's been a phlebotomy program on the credit side. It's a certificate program. So we recently just developed a patient care technician program on the credit side. It's going to be a certificate. So it'll have the EKG on the non-credit side will move over to the credit side. So they will do phlebotomy, EKG, and patient care. And a lot of hospitals are looking, to hire patient care technicians. So I'm excited to be here and, answer any questions anybody has about the non-credit healthcare. Thank you.
Great. Leslie, can you keep an eye on the waiting room for me in case we have some people who are late? So I'm going to share my screen, and there are 2 questions that require you to answer in the chat. So pay attention, because if nobody responds in the chat, we'll know you guys have all zoned out and are somewhere else. So, all right, let's get going here. Okay. Oops. What's happening? There we go. All right. I will ask the question everybody asked on Zoom when they share their screen. Can you see that? Okay. So we're gonna spend some time today just giving you some information, then taking your questions about what is commonly referred to at Bucks as non-credit. And the question we all really ponder is, why is it non? That seems to give this impression that it doesn't really amount to anything. So we're going to take a look at who our non-credit students are, and from our presenters, that covers the areas at the College of Workforce Development, Community Ed and Professional Certification, customized training, public safety, and allied health. So here's your first question to respond to in the chat. How many non-credit students does Bucks register each year? So place your guesstimate in the chat for me. And Leslie, you'll give me some.
Okay. All right, Stan says 350. Good guess.
All right.
I'll let some people go in before I read them all off. How about that?
Okay. So how many non-credit students does Bucks register each year?
Oh, I think someone has an edge on the answer.
All right, looks like we have 10 or 11 guesses.
Yeah, it looks like it. I'm going to read these off. All right.
300 guesses.
Yeah, they're good. 350, 250, 1,500, 7,500, 1,000, 2,000, 200, 70,000, 5,000, 4,500.
All right. And so the answer is in unduplicated enrollment. So that means, you know, just like by the person, they're taking maybe their first class, or, you know, they're not repeat customers, let's say. We have 22,117 for fiscal year 19. And if you look at duplicated enrollment, meaning if a student's taking more than one class, we have over 60,000 registrations, and that was for 2019. Now, you also notice the trend from 2016 being the blue to 2019 being the yellow, that even on the non-credit side, we're seeing a bit of a downturn in registrations. So the declining enrollment at the college is not only solely on the credit side, it is also on the non-credit side, but you'll see to what extent that is projected to be going forward. So compare these numbers to the credit side, where we have first-time students of about 2,300, and then fall student enrollment at about, say, 7,900. And based on the last retention rate we had from fall to spring last year, it was about 75%. So, you know, you're clicking in somewhere around 13,000 on the credit side with total enrollment compared to 60,000 on the non-credit side. So a lot of times people are pretty startled that we have that many non-credit students. I will tell you that a large number of our non-credit students are in our fire school, and we do fire training all over the globe. So keeping that in mind as well, when you look at demographics, 80% of our non-credit students are male and 20% of our non-credit students are female. And the largest age group is 40 to 64, which represents about 38% of the non-credit group, and followed by 30 to 39, which is 18% of our total non-credit enrollment. If you're on the credit side, we're typically thinking about, you know, our students that are coming out of high school. While we do have adult students, the adult students on the credit side of the house has been declining pretty rapidly. So if you're looking at that traditional age student coming out of high school, looking to make a college choice, then this is what's happening. We're definitely not going in the right direction in terms of people in the world who will be graduating from high school. And this isn't about they're choosing somewhere other than Bucks. This is, there simply aren't that many of them to be recruited, and there are the same number of choices. So the typical college population is decreasing rapidly. So one of the areas where we can start to recover some of that enrollment, you know, is potentially by combining credit and non-credit, or reaching a higher percentage of those, you know, 30 to 65-year-olds, right? So if we can get a certain percentage of high schoolers that come to us, we want to keep them. So the other thing we'll talk about today is how we get those, you know, not only the pathways from non-credit into the degree or certificate programs on the credit side, but also once they finish their their credit degree, how do we keep them in something else? We just want to hold on to them as long as we can. So, you know, the question then for us is, how do we, how do we guide them? So Leslie's going to take it from here.
Okay, great. All right. And Tracy, you can keep an eye on the, I just let somebody in. All right, so thanks everyone. So I know those numbers might be a little, I was kind of looking at them, it's a little bit surprising in some ways, but I think, we have, especially Bucks County, the population is just a little bit different, but, what I wanted to try to focus on and what, all of us want to kind of talk about today is just even thinking about, how do we guide students? So having worked with credit and non-credit students, how do we go with the mindset of what is best for the student? So, I have some students who are in our industrial maintenance class that started out maybe as a credit student. It wasn't the right fit for them. They weren't quite sure what they were going to do. Some students really struggle with online classes, and then they found the non-credit side of the college, and it's been a good fit for them, at least at this point in time in their life. So I think, and then I also try to counsel students who are in some of our programs to say they're doing a non-credit program now, like maybe a credit thing is the next best step for you. So trying to kind of think, how do we go back and forth between some of these programs, and how do we help each other out? So that's kind of one of the things that, throughout the presentation, kind of think about what's best for the student. That may change from year to year, right? A circumstance may change in their family. Their parent loses a job, they need to go to work right away, right? So how do we really help them? How do we guide them? And how do we not lose them as a student overall? I think those are definitely the type of things that, say if I were to go back onto the career services side after learning what I've learned in non-credit, I would have different conversations with people because I just kind of know more now about some of the different options. And then, we have to kind of look at it. I try to look at it, what's the overall result for a college as a whole, right? So the enrollment is declining, but how do we help some of those students find the right path for them? And at the end of the day, if they stay with the college, whether it's on the credit or non-credit side, that's a good result. And making sure we even kind of measure things that way. Tracy, I don't know, for example, I know 2 students in the IM class right now, they were credit students and now they're on the non-credit, but are they being counted as people who are lost? And they're not really. So just even thinking about it that way. And then the biggest thing is just making sure that students know what's out there for them and the options that are available to them. Again, kind of when I was on the credit side, especially paralegal, I would have maybe more adult students. And then, okay, well, we have this bookkeeping program. Actually, that'd be a great thing for you to add onto your program. So again, it's just, and then lots of times they're free too. So that's the great thing about some of the programs that we have. So again, just making sure they know what's out there and aware of the options that they have. I think that's just really important to kind of emphasize throughout the presentation. Tracy, next slide. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of, in the Center for Workforce Development, some of the courses that we offer, and show of hands, does anyone know some of the courses that we offer? Maybe I'll call on someone. Stan, do you know any of these courses? Have you heard of any of them?
The ones that are listed, sure. The ones that are listed, sure. But beyond that, I would not.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. Just always like to call on someone. Stan, you were first for the names that came up. All right. I know Mike knows about these, so I can't ask Mike. All right. So these are the 4 courses that we offer. So we're kind of broken down into 2 areas. So the bookkeeping with Quickbooks and the Microsoft Office Technology and Customer Service, MOTSIs, because it's way too long to say all of that. So these are kind of more on the office administrative side. And both of these classes, they're similar in format. So they're about 7 to 8 weeks. Right now they're being fully offered online. And we do have a grant from the County of Bucks, where for the most part, if you've been impacted by COVID in some way, shape, or form, and who hasn't, you can get this class for free. We did hold the MOTSIs class in person before COVID, and bookkeeping was actually a class that we launched during COVID. And again, they're really, really great courses for, MOTSIs is more, say you worked somewhere for a really long time. I had a lot of people who worked at a travel agency and they got laid off because travel changed so much. Maybe they knew how to use spreadsheets, sort of, they could punch in a number, but they couldn't actually create a formula themselves in Excel. This is kind of the class for them. Bookkeeping with Quickbooks is, again, a great way to learn more accounting type things. And again, a little more advanced in terms of basic computer knowledge to get into that class. And then the 2 at the bottom are our industrial skills training. So our Pre-Apprentice metalwork training and our Pre-Apprentice industrial maintenance. These are both 12-week courses. And we've had great success with these courses. So you may have heard of these ones a little bit more. They were created out of, needs that were coming from the industry. They couldn't get some of these jobs filled. So created the metalwork training first in 2016 and then industrial maintenance. And these are both great programs with very, very in-demand jobs. I know Mike can attest to this. Mike Rao can attest to this as well. And these are the two programs that I actually work on, where we have over 95% job placement rate. I have kind of employees like banging down my door trying to get some of these people to work for them because they really need people to work. So most of these classes are typically free through the different types of grants that we have. So they're just really, really good options for students. And I'll talk a little bit more about them the next slide, Tracy. Okay, so kind of what's really, I guess, made these programs really successful is, as I mentioned, especially the industrial skills programs, they're really employer driven. So employers came to us and said, we really, really need, for example, the metalwork, you would go into like a CNC job, welding job. We really are looking for these type of employees and we're really struggling, whether it's retaining employees, getting people to show up every day. So the nice part about these programs is, they're almost like a pre-employment for the employer. So they have to show up every day for 12 weeks, come in on time. We ask them to treat it like a job. And at the end of the program, they feel they're vetted and that we're comfortable in saying this person's going to be a good employee. We mirror their pre-employment processes with drug screenings, background checks, all of those things. So basically, the student, if they get through the program, they should be very employable. And then me and another individual in our department, Stephanie Wanger, we provide individualized coaching for the students. We help them with their resumes, get ready for interviews, and we actually, help them through the whole interview process, send their resumes out to employers and so forth. And also we have we have great instructors. They've been doing this for a really long time, really care about the students and have really kind of great student to teacher ratios, 1 to 2 instructors for about 10 students. And then I just want to talk about a couple students that I've worked with, just some great success stories that have gone through our program specifically for the industrial skills. So we had a student, her name is Gianna. She was actually part of our OS RIDE program, which is our out-of-school youth. Has anyone ever heard of our out-of-school youth program? You can go and get your GED. Okay. It's another great program we have on the non-credit side. Basically, again, most of the time free to students. She was someone who didn't graduate high school, kind of had like a tough home life, came back, did our GED program, got her GED. My boss had gone into the GED classroom and said like, hey, we have this metalwork in this program. She was really interested. She interviewed, she did a great job. She did the 12 weeks of the program and finished last September and got a great job at $19 an hour, straight from the program, and just did really, really well. She's done great. I've kind of kept in contact with her over the past year, just like a very good success story. And then Cole is a student who's actually our industrial skills class or industrial maintenance class right now. He was a credit student and was really struggling and just had a hard time. He did not like the online class. It just wasn't for him, which I get it. And so he happened to hear about the program and is in it right now. And, I had a conversation with him yesterday. I was helping him with his resume because I'm getting ready to place them. And he said, this was just a really good fit for me right at this point. But you know what? Someday I think I want to go back to Bucks. I want to get my engineering tech degree, which is, I'll talk about that next. But really, it was a good option for him at this moment in his life. It doesn't mean he's not going to be a credit student again someday. And I think that'll lead into my next slide. So a lot, kind of we talked about here, it's there's a lot of great bridges from the programs that we have on the workforce side to the credit programs. And I think that's where it has been nice that I did work on the credit side, at least for a little bit, and have enough knowledge to be dangerous to talk to the students where I say, hey, did you ever consider this? Because I know it's really important to, encourage students on both sides. So we're very lucky over the past year, the metalwork and industrial maintenance class has been PLA'd. So now there are 8 credits towards the engineering tech degree, and I really push that with the students. I say, work for a little bit. Maybe you can get tuition reimbursement, but if you can go back to school and get that engineering tech degree, at this point, you've gotten a $6,800 class for free and 8 free credit hours. You really should consider that. And we talked to Christine Delahante comes into the class, talks to them about that. I try to really keep them connected because it's just such a good option for them. You know, and again, we try to place our students at companies that offer tuition reimbursement, so they have that option as well. And I really kind of say, think about that when you're accepting a job offer. That's part of your total compensation. Hopefully someday we'll have a PLA of some of the MOTSIs and bookkeeping classes. That will be another great thing, maybe towards the business degree. I'm sure that some of those things are in works. Yep. And then lastly, again, I used to work with the MOTSI students, and even when I talk to them, I really try to encourage our credit programs as well. You know, I have individual, like I'll kind of go over the resume and say, what do you want to do next? And well, I'm thinking about, I really like to learn more about, you know, social media marketing. And I say, oh, we have all these different programs. I try to connect them with the different instructors and really say, like, did you think about this? Paralegal program, another great way that you can get back to work. So really try to make sure that they know all the options kind of on both sides. And I think that's my last slide, Tracy, and then I'll pass it over. And again, so this is kind of just some examples of what it looks like. Say a student starts out in non-credit one of our programs. So let's say they're a metalwork IM student. Some typical jobs they would go into is maybe into quality, a CNC operator, or maintenance tech. And then they go to that engineering tech degree. Maybe they transfer. That's kind of a good pathway for them. For the MOTSIs course, which is kind of that more basic computer, moving into a business AAS, perhaps a paralegal certificate, and then pulling in one of Denise's courses. They can also do a notary. Again, it's just kind of like adding on to the things that they're learning. And lastly, bookkeeping is obviously a great lead into accounting. And then maybe say they want to learn how to do their own books because they're an entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur certificate. So just a lot of different ways that can kind of go on the credit side, the non-credit side, some of Denise's courses as well. There's a lot of different options for people.
Right. And that these are great examples of showing that it's not a one way. It's really, students can go from the credit side to the non-credit side and then maybe back. The middle one is probably my favorite because you've got a workforce program that is currently free of charge to the student. They roll that into, I think that right now, I think we're looking at 9 credits into the business AAS, which is an occupational degree. As soon as they get that associate's degree, they would qualify to get into the paralegal certificate. And then they can also get their notary. So as they build all these credentials, it really does encourage them, and it feels good to get that first badge saying, oh, you completed the MOTSI certificate, and it didn't take that long, right? They see some success and they have some momentum. And, if we could keep everybody just bouncing around, that would be fantastic. As they complete, like, we don't want them just randomly bouncing around, but they complete one thing and they move to the next thing with us. So, well, thank you, Leslie.
Yep.
All right. Janet, health sciences, what are we doing for the people who want to go into healthcare?
Okay, well, as everybody's probably heard, there's just many healthcare shortages now. I mean, by 2025, with the aging population, there's going to be like 400,000 home health aides as a shortage, because more and more people are wanting to try to stay home, and the aging population is going to require more and more healthcare. So as far as nurse practitioners, it's going to be like 29,400 nurse practitioner shortage. So it's not just shortage in nursing. I know when people think of healthcare, they just think of nursing, but it's actually in all levels of healthcare. It's dentists, it's dental assistants, it's radiographers, it's physicians, it's medical lab technicians, it's medical assistants, it's phlebotomy and patient care technician. So the actual healthcare occupation is definitely projected to grow 15% from 2021 to 2029, and which is going to add 2.4 million jobs to the economy. And the other thing that's happened, to healthcare, and even more of a need with the shortage here, is the pandemic that we've just experienced is adding, it's actually exacerbated the shortage. So many people in the health careers, they've decided to maybe do a career change or retire. They have COVID fatigue and burnout. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So we have some great programs on the non-credit side in health sciences as well as the credit side. And there's a lot of pathways that they can join together. We do offer a lot of, many programs that we can offer the students. So some of the students we see, maybe a lot of them have lost their jobs, and they have a degree already. They might have a bachelor's degree or master's degree. So sometimes they're looking for something quick to get into, a short-term position or short-term educational program. They take that program and then they can go back to the credit side. So maybe they could do, one program, and then they could go say, all right, I got this national certification, and then I'm going to go back and get this degree. So some of the things that we offer in the non-credit health sciences area is CPR First Aid Training. So anybody that's in healthcare certainly should maintain or keep up with your CPR and First Aid training. There's End of Life Specialist. That's an all online course. It's done in one semester, and it is a certification. The dental assistant, that's it's about a 100-hour program, so it's a little bit more than one semester. But when they're done, the dental assistants are completed. They actually take a national DMV exam, so they can actually do X-rays. They take a radiography test at the end. So, and every day, every week, I should say, I have like 2 or 3 dentists right now looking to recruit our dental assistants. EKG technician, it is a hybrid program. And I had mentioned before, this program is just going to move over to the patient care technician. So the patient care technician certificate on the credit side will have 3 certifications. The prerequisite is to be a nurse aide, and then they'll get patient care technician. It's a patient care technician is one program, EKG is one, and then phlebotomy. So when they leave, they'll have 3 certifications, and the hospitals now, definitely Doylestown Hospital and Lower Bucks Hospital, we have worked with, and they definitely have come to us, have told us the shortages that they had in. So they mostly work in the emergency rooms, but they are now putting patient care technicians throughout hospitals. So that's a very big area. The nurse aid training, that is like the basics of nurse aid. So any nurse aid that, is inspiring to maybe become a nurse, if they start out with nurse aid, it's all the basic nursing that they need to know. We do a nursing review and reentry. So there's nurses that may have did nursing, and maybe they've stayed out for a while, they've raised their children, or a lot of times now they're taking care of their parents. And then they decide they've been out of it for a while, and they decide, you know what, I think I'm going to go back into nursing. So we do have a review course for them. Pharmacy technician, that's a 1 semester program too. There is a big shortage of pharmacy technicians right now. And I've had many students that have come back after taking the pharmacy technician. They do take a national PTCB exam. And later, a couple of years later, so they'll call me back and say, you know what, I became a pharmacist. So again, there's a lot of pathways. Same with physical therapy aid. It is an entry-level position, but a lot of them will say, well, you know what, I think I want to be a physical therapist, but I think, before I do that, maybe I would like to take the physical therapy aid, see if it's something that I like. So that's a 1 semester program too. And then probably the largest non-credit program that we have is the practical nursing program. And that's a 1-year intensive program. They go Monday through Friday for 1 year, and they become practical nursings, which after they take their exam, they're a licensed practical nurse. So that's a very intense program. And just a few pathways, I had mentioned a few, like farm technicians, to become pharmacists, physical therapy, become physical therapists. But here's just two. The nurse aide is really basic level nursing. So I picked that to start. So nurse aide could go to practical nursing. And once they become a practical nurse, they could, start working and then come back and do our RN program. And then again, our nurse aide, that's a prerequisite for patient care. They can take our nurse aide and then they can go over to the credit side and do the patient care technician. So again, I agree with Leslie and Tracy. And, when we meet with the students, we try to find out what's right for them at that point in their life. What do they need? Do they need something fast? They need, and then go into credit so we can be a feeder program to the credit side. And the most important thing is we want to retain the students and keep them, and try to see what fits right for them. So,
right.
Good.
Great. Thank you, Janet. And then one of the things we're always looking for as a college is that untapped market. And when we were putting this presentation together, Denise, this section here was something that I just really had no idea. There was this market that is actually traditional age students that is growing. So Denise, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I know some of this has been a little bit of bad news in terms of the forecast for enrollment, but the one area that I think is projected to increase is actually the English language learners. So with that being said, we've got a question here. So what percentage of adult students, so that's anyone 18 and or over, so that includes non-traditional students, are English language learners? So what do we think? 10%, 25, 40, or more than 50?
See how many people are still awake. Oh, some people.
Can you see it, Tracy, or do you want me to read it off?
I don't know if I can.
I don't know if you're able to see it or not.
I got a few
Stan
people.
put in his own percentage. Stan made up his own.
It's a write-in.
Got a write-in vote.
So sorry.
It's all right.
Great. So some C's, some B's, a couple of A's. We've got 25%. So it is actually 40% right now, and that is projected to increase, particularly in areas of nursing. And just some background for all of you on Bucks County, currently approximately 10% of our county are foreign-born residents, and 12% of the residents speak a language other than English at home. All right, so we actually have a couple of programs. We have two kind of parts of our English language program. We have an ESL program, which is our non-credit, and then we have our AESL program, which is our credit program. And just as we've been talking about pathways, and I'll show you that on the next slide, but we do have a lot of, we call it our pipeline between our ESL and our AESL, and students transfer back and forth between those while they're developing their English language skills and meeting their career and personal professional goals. So our three programs are our non-credit ESL, we've got our credit AESL, and then we actually have a customized English language training program that we offer to businesses in the community. So this slide, there's a lot going on here, and that's kind of by design because there's a lot of different avenues and a lot of different paths that people can take to get to their goal. So just for example, they could start in our beginning English, our non-credit ESL, move on to our intermediate English, and then from there, they've got some choices. They could continue on to the advanced English, which a lot of times we have business owners in the area that are just looking to improve their English, or maybe it's a grandparent that wants to be able to speak with their grandchildren. So, and then if they're in a more academic track or they're interested in getting a degree, we talk to them about moving over to the credit AESL program. And often Lynn Lisher, who is our AESL coordinator, she actually comes into the classes and answers questions for students and talks to them about the options that they have. There's the option then once they're at that intermediate level that they could go on and get their GED. And then all of those things can move back into the associate degree. So whether they get their GED and then want to go back and get their associate, or they're in the credit AESL and then move on. And the end goal is obviously career advancement. So there's a lot of different avenues that they can take and still be able to do this. So a few statistics. Oh, I'm so sorry. My internet is not doing so well.
We can still hear you.
Okay, let me turn my camera off. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so the English language, we have, here's our projected, so we're once again talking about that pie that is a shrinking pie, but the large population of ESL students is actually projected to increase. So currently, we're at about 15 to 20% of the population is English language learners, and that's for the K-12 population. By 2025, it's projected to be 1/4, and by 2040, it is 40% of K-12 students. So, and kind of a corollary to that is that we have seen in research that ELLs are much more apt to attend community college than they are to go to a 4-year college. So we are poised to really be in a great position to take in these students and provide them with a great experience.
That was something that, I mean, having been on the credit side for, let's say, about 14 years, I had no idea. My only experience with, you know, students who English was their second language was every now and then I would have a paralegal student that, you know, had come from another country, but their English was usually pretty good. And I didn't ever hear about ESL or AESL or, you know, any statistics on K through 12. So was anybody else surprised by these stats? I can't see it. I can't see everybody. So if you're shaking your head, you can just unmute if you want to say, yeah, I had no idea. All right, maybe not. All right. And
okay,
then
so
you're not done yet.
I'm not. So beyond, obviously the ESL program is near and dear to my heart and also a great opportunity for our college, but beyond just ESL, our department offers a lot of programs. You know, I'm not going to sit here and go through our 25-page catalog with you, but I will tell you that we do primarily offer, we have programs that prepare individuals for state and national certification. We offer digital badging for the completion of programs and courses. We do have other pre-employment programs, things like our locomotive program or our private pilot ground school. And then we do have personal enrichment courses, things like the art classes and the music classes and language. AESL, we offer, I'm sorry, ASL, so American Sign Language, we have that as well. And I put here just some of the examples of the partnerships that we have and some of the industries that recognize our credentials that we offer. And then another portion of this is our customized training for business. So we do our English language training. We also have things like soft skills, and Mike Rowell is definitely at the helm of this. And we do so much training for businesses in the area, team building, safety training. And then we also have our IT Academy, which offers a lot of different, once again, industry recognized credentials that individuals can add on, businesses can take, and those that are in the credit side, once again, can take these IT certifications and add those on to their degree.
Great. Right. And then I'm gonna pinch hit here for Kelly Sell, because she lost electric and internet. So they were apparently having a pretty nasty storm down down the shore area where she resides. So I worked with Kelly on a couple of different things. One of them was that when we started seeing and talking about this declining enrollment and what was coming, and we've probably been talking about that in earnest, at least in the business department, for about 3 years. And I talked to my faculty who all had industry experience about any potential possibilities to work in customized training. Because I think one thing at Bucks that we don't really do a great job at is utilizing our own intellectual capital. So, everybody looks for the outside consultant, or, if, non-credit is looking for an instructor, they wouldn't necessarily go and see, who might be qualified from the faculty. So I started conversations with Dan Loper about how the credit faculty might serve on the non-credit side through customized training. And Kelly did quite a number of trainings. And again, you have to do the customized training, you have to be the right fit. And if any of you know Kelly, she is very adaptable. She's able to pivot. If something, really crazy happens, she can make it into some kind of teachable moment. And she's very approachable, and people really, really tend to gravitate towards her at these trainings. So she had a great experience doing that and getting out into the business community, which again, for me, I think that the more we can get our faculty out in front of people in business, that just is almost free marketing, right? So we're using our intellectual capital to deliver a product, and we're also getting the benefit of showing off into, an organization that might have 30, 40, 50 people there. And, who knows who has kids, or, they're talking to their friends who might have children and say, oh, like one of the instructors did this training and it was really great. Like Bucks is a quality place. The other thing Kelly and I worked on was we did a project where Kelly and Greg Luce were teaching entrepreneurship to ESL students. And so they worked with an ESL instructor, and all of the materials and reading were about entrepreneurship. And they incorporated that not only on the language side of it, but also in the material that Kelly and Greg were doing. And it culminated in a presentation that all of the students had to stand up, do a presentation in English about a business that they maybe already had in mind that they really wanted to launch, or something that they had to think about for this class project. And as a result of those classes, there were 3 businesses that actually launched. And I went to the complete when they got their certificates, and the one woman said to me, I always wanted to open a bakery, but I never thought I could. And now I'm going to do it. So it's kind of that blending again of the material that that we're maybe teaching on the credit side, but it can also translate into non-credit. And then now, we have a new business in the county, and it really does speak to our mission. And then this was a quote that Kelly had, that the experience of working with local employers provides eye-opening insights into the needs of the workforce today that can be brought back into the credit classroom. So really thinking about what's happening in businesses in the county and bringing that into the classroom so that students can identify their potential career path, or maybe even get internships or things like that before they transfer or go, just go out into the world of work. So, and that brings us to our questions segment of the evening. And I will say, this group is spot on, man. We were shooting for 40 to 45 minutes of talking heads and then some questions. So good job, ladies. Very impressive. All right.
That was really interesting. All the stats and everything that you do. I wasn't aware of all of the courses. This is Susan, by the way. It would be neat if the students had like something clickable, that I'm interested in healthcare. Let me click on that. What all can I do, from healthcare, credit and non-credit? Those terms are meaningless to students.
Right.
They're just academic terms. And do you think we could ever get rid of them?
Yeah, I know, and it is so hard, right? Because this is how we talk. And what we're working on, I'm working with marketing and on a I don't know if you've ever seen those things on social media where it says, do you like ducks or puppies? Do you like this or that? Do you consider
I do them all the time.
Yeah. Like, are you a helper or a giver? Like that kind of thing. So then ultimately people would put in their answers, and then it would say, well, based on your answers, here's some great programs for you. And then it would give them the opportunity to go and kind of explore those programs on our website.
That's a great idea.
We were working with TLTR and the Con Ed committee. So they were trying to find kind of the right tool to make that happen. Because I mean, for me, I think that people like to do those things. They feel fun. They don't feel like you're doing research about your career. And it's an easy way to share something on social media. And we could, obviously if we're looking for that 30 to 55 market, we're going more towards Facebook. If we're looking to the, maybe the 18 to 40, we're going to Instagram. So I think it crosses a lot of platforms that we could utilize it. And it could even be used, for when admissions goes out and say, oh, like, call this up on your phone and let's take a quick quiz and that kind of thing. So that is something that we're working on. Some things just never go as fast as I would like them to. And this one is, look, I seriously feel like I should just go figure out how to be a coder. And so I could be like, hey, I got this idea, click, click, click. And I can
right. You might have to, hire someone, get a grant or something to hire a programmer.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the tools are out there, and we have to figure out which one is the best one. So I'm hopeful that will be coming sooner rather than later. So we are doing a marketing campaign called Level Up that we're going to focus on, basically put it out there. Like, are you looking to level up your job choices? Here are the growing job areas if you want to work remotely. And if you don't have the training, here are all the programs that you can come to Bucks and get trained so that you could live the life that, of the wanderer that you've decided is your path now that you've worked remotely for a year. Or, do you just need to increase your computer skills because you want to get into the workforce, or, any way that people want to level up, we want to have.
Yeah, because people right now are revisiting their lives and their careers. Yeah. And they're ready for a change, I think, and they don't want to go back, to what they were doing before.
Yeah. And so interesting with the remote, there's an example like from Bucks and another institution for a web designer. We had an ad up for a web designer, and it was designed to have the person work on campus. Another institution had a similar ad, but it said remote. We got 5 applicants, they got 100.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, obviously you're expanding the geographic area of talent that you're pulling from, but I'm not on TikTok, but I hear from those TikTokers that it's also all over TikTok about how like, I'm going to quit my job and I want to go remote and I don't want to go back. And, I
want to do something different or something meaningful, something for me, and as opposed to, other people.
Yeah. People have had the opportunity to slow down a little bit and really take stock of what they want. So whatever it is that they want, hopefully we'll be able to get them the skills that they need to pursue that. And whether it's, a traditional degree or certificate, or it's just a program that builds skills, we have it all. So.
We have it. Thank you.
There's a lot of people that are just saying, because of COVID and doing Zoom as we are right now, that when their companies tell them we're coming out of this and we want you back in the office, I've heard a lot of rumbling of people saying, no, I'm not coming back. Yeah. I'll quit and find someone that wants to continue doing this modality, as opposed to show up 9 to 5, be under the hierarchical, gaze of a manager.
Right. And businesses are struggling with that too, right? So how do they, if they decide, well, we're not going back to our brick and mortar offices, then what are the skills that they need to be effective as a remote business? Like, it's one thing to kind of fake it till you make it for a year, but it's another thing to change your entire business model. And that's what the, folks in customized training can address as well. And it's just, this area is so fascinating to me now, because it's all of this stuff that we were not talking about upskilling people for remote work or teaching businesses how to deal with a hybrid work model or, remote work model 18 months ago. That stuff existed, but it was not on the radar as a viable market. And it really is now.
Yeah.
So, any other questions, particularly for our professional advisors that are joining us? I know sometimes you don't have a long time, or even our Call 101 instructors, you don't have a long time to have these really involved conversations with students about all the credit options and all the non-credit options. So if there's something that we can do to make it easier for you to talk to students, or a quick and dirty guide or something.
Tracy, I was just thinking with the Call 101, in Call 101, they do take a kind of a quiz through the career services, and they, generally come up with a listing of potential careers that would be appropriate for them to consider. And then, of course, in Call 101, they also put together their plan, which the advisors would know about. But I would say, generally that they do rely more on the credit side. So I'm just wondering if for, say, the Call 101 instructors, if there would be some sort of a guide or whatever for folks like trying, or maybe working with career services for some of those occupations that get identified, potential paths other than credit, or like you said, back and forth.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe I'll ask Sharon if she can pull a report of like the top 20 things that come up when Call 101 students do that inventory. So then we could kind of say, okay, it looks like, engineering is coming up a lot, but maybe this is a good thing to expose, those students to. Initially would be the metalworks or the industrial maintenance or something like that. And they could see it's a kind of a quick thing to see if they like that area, and then they could transition, obviously, to the credit side, to the degree, if they wanted to pursue that. So, okay, I will look into that. I don't know is she still using Tight Focus?
I think that's what we were using.
So.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Do you know, Leslie, if you could pull those reports of like the top?
I'm honestly not sure, Sharon. I didn't do some of that stuff as much, but sometimes, I would go into the class and I'd kind of present like, hey, this is what career services does. We never necessarily had an understandably like, hey, this is the non-credit stuff. I don't know if that's something to think about. I just don't, that, again, or here are some other options. That's the type of thing. I just don't know if that's what we want to go over and Call 101 sometimes, but I'm not sure. So
yeah.
But and I know, Tracy, I think I've talked to you about this before, and Sue Herring, I have talked about this for the advisors, that, we're definitely, even like some of the students who are maybe like at risk of like, okay, I like, they come to you and say, I can't take these classes anymore. I have a family issue, whatever that might be. And that's, some of the things, some of the times where we would like to be like, okay, here are some other options too. I don't know if they come to you sometimes with that, but that was something, Sue and I had talked about before. I'm just not sure how that process all works. Because again, we don't want to be, I guess, it's a hard balance of like, I don't want to like poach students, but if they're saying to you, hey, I don't think I can do this anymore, I'm having a family issue, again, not losing them to the whole institution. Hey, maybe this is something you can think about doing. I know we've talked about that. I just don't know what that looks like for the advisors.
And I think it's like, I think the fact that you feel like you're poaching a student is part like that whole thing, but that's how it is, right? It's like you're either you're either with us or against us. And that's sort of the wall that's been built. And so it's more getting everybody to get around that mindset of, you know, it's just a fluidity. Like they can move back and forth, and it doesn't mean that you lost them or you gained them. There's no winners and losers. I mean, quite honestly, if we can keep students at the institution, we're all winners. And if we don't, we're all losers. So, you know, that's just really how we have to operate. But it is because it is still that mindset.
I'm part of this discussion. I mean, like, I don't want to steal people, but you know, it's the right thing for them, you know.
Right. I mean, that's just kind of where we are. So hopefully, hopefully this presentation gave you all a little bit more information about how, you know, students can get what they need either in multiple ways, and that we can create these pathways that combine both sides of the house divided, that I am working diligently to unite. And it's gonna take a little bit of time, but I think, you know, the fact that we had, you know, 14, 15 people come to even hear about this, I feel like that's a total win, because if we had done this, I don't know, 2 years ago, no, people would have been like, oh, non-credit, that's not me. Like, no, I'm not going to that. So thank you all for coming and spending an hour of your evening. I hope it's not raining and the humidity has gone down wherever you are, and you can grill out or take your after dinner walk or something much more fun than being on Zoom. So thank you all. And I will get this recording to Deb Bergen for the rest of the professional advisors. And I guess, are we housing them somewhere, Linda, for future viewing if somebody can't sleep or something?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
If you have it, yeah, let me know and I'll find a place for it.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay, guys. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.